Hi, my name is Kevin West, and I'm going to be talking to you about my biblical teaching philosophy statement. As an educator in biblical teaching, I believe the goal of my teaching is for students to acquire knowledge, but not just to acquire knowledge in the sense of their cognitive faculties, but to really acquire knowledge in or have an epistemology of almost in a Hebraic sense. The students would learn in a sense that it changes behavior, so that they're not just learning cognitively, but they're also learning in their heart. And so I think that is evidenced by changed behavior. An example I used in my first video project was one of culinary school, and even though it's a secular venue, one might talk about how a student hasn't truly learned the principles, concepts, or techniques until they can replicate them and until they can do them themselves. And in that sense, that's what I'm talking about, knowing in the heart, knowing in not just the mind, but in a way that changes behavior. And so this is very applicable to biblical teaching and this philosophy. And the reason this is because I'm passionate about students of the Bible being formed into the image of Jesus Christ. I don't want them just to know about God. I want them to know God. And therefore, as a teacher, I'm not just tasked to deliver information, but I'm actually tasked with also modeling through behavior and teaching by my actions. So in my teaching, I really have to express my own teachability, my own humility, openness to ideas, and have integrity. I have to be honest and do my best to avoid being unethical or being unfair. And that also means that I have to cultivate a classroom environment that allows for disagreement, but is also respectful in doing so. Another thing that's really huge to me is just always having an encouraging environment, and encouraging, even in comments on papers and assessment, that even if a student's not doing well, to be encouraging and to cultivate a community relationship within the classroom. And so I hope to do that through developing trusting relationships with students, between me and students peer-to-peer, and that in a sense I would be teaching by my very actions. So in general, I desire that students develop a working knowledge of the principles that I'm teaching, obviously, in the course or subject, but so that they can interact in critical thinking and in conversation on topics. I also desire that these principles will continue to form them into the image of Christ, which I just spoke of. And then finally, the students would be able to build upon the foundations laid in the classroom so that they can go beyond the time allotted in the classroom to develop the ideas into further learning and integrate those further in ministry and in life. I also employ to do this, or attempt to do this, by employing interactive lecture with useful media and physical objects, and the use of class discussion, creative projects, reading and reflection, and then some type of integration paper or project. I will resource students with suggestive reading or web material, since a lot of that is on the internet now. And then I will not separate assessment from learning. That's been really huge. I've learned that in this class, that I'm not going to whatever assessment I'm going to do needs to come right out of the learning and actually even be formative in itself. So one of the ways I do this kind of stuff already and integrate my philosophy already is when I teach something called the intertestamental period, and also the New Testament survey. And what I'll do is I'll use PowerPoint presentations that use maps and timelines as well as photographs to bring this world alive visually. I'll pass around incense, or like frankincense and myrrh, and a replica coin that has the inscription and image of Antiochus Epiphanes, who's a major character in the intertestamental period. So in laying the foundation of the time period and reviewing the exile period, I ask questions that are leading questions, like what happens to a group of people when they are in captivity for large amounts of time or prolonged amount of time, or what practices are held onto and what things are kind of let or put to the wayside or abandoned during times of captivity, prolonged captivity. So personally, it's obviously important for me to also grow, continue growing, and I talked about modeling that and being teachable. So I plan to grow as a teacher by continuing in professional development through continuing education, and also through discussion and learning from other teachers, especially those who have been teaching longer than me. And then I also aim at refining myself as a person, being formed into the image of Christ through my relationship with Him and relationship with the church and community. Thank you for listening to my philosophy, and when we come to the discussion time, I'd love to hear some feedback. Thanks.